When leaders announce sanctions, the headline is rarely the whole story. The question is, who designed the incentive, who cannot afford to walk away, and what option still looks rational on each side? Today we read this move as strategy, not as a morality play. Anonymous GitHub drops are not hacktivism but calibrated state proxy warfare designed to bypass sanctions and maintain plausible deniability while inflicting kinetic economic damage. In March 2026, the Iranian-linked group Handala retaliated for a U.S. strike by resetting over 200,000 Stryker military devices across 79 countries simultaneously. This was not random criminality. It was a retaliation strike executed without triggering traditional war thresholds. The public narrative frames these events as ideological activism or rogue hacking, but the strategic reality is far more calculated. Nations like Iran, Russia, and China have weaponized non-state proxies to bypass sanctions while maintaining the veil of plausible deniability required by international law. The U.S. Treasury Department has already sanctioned 6 IRGC officials in 2024 for directing attacks publicly framed as pro-Palestinian activism. This proves that hacktivist fronts are often state-directed operations where the digital battlefield is used to achieve geopolitical goals without crossing into open conflict. We must distinguish between criminal hacking and state proxy warfare, because it determines whether the response should be law enforcement or strategic deterrence. When a group claims responsibility for an attack on water systems, banks, or military hardware, we are witnessing economic warfare tools designed to decouple supply chains and destabilize regimes. The distinction is critical. These actors function as calibrated arms of state powers rather than independent criminals seeking profit. By delegating attacks to non-state fronts, states can inflict damage on adversaries' critical infrastructure while claiming ideological motivation. The shift from espionage to kinetic disruption marks a new phase in great power competition. In the past, cyber operations focused on stealing secrets. Now, they are explicitly tied to national industrial strategy and designed to break systems. China-linked UNC 3886 breached all 4 of Singapore's major telecommunications providers using zero-day exploits and rootkits during an 11-month campaign. This was not just data theft, it was a systematic effort to compromise the nation's digital backbone for years without detection. Quick resource note: I keep a curated set of Amazon search links in the description for books, gear, and tools relevant to this channel's topics. Some are affiliate links, so I may earn a commission at no extra cost to you. Please consider supporting the channel by using those links if you find something useful. Similarly, cyber operations are now tools for economic decoupling rather than simple espionage. Testimony from 2023 highlights that China executes systematic campaigns such as Operation Cuckoo Bees by APT41, specifically targeting intellectual property aligned with Made in China 2025. This is a state-sponsored effort to undermine the U.S. economy and steal trade secrets from startups lacking robust cybersecurity. The goal is not just intelligence gathering but actively reshaping global supply chains through digital disruption. The failure of international norms allows this behavior to persist unchecked. Despite UN member states agreeing on cyber norms in 2021, there remains no effective agency or enforcement mechanism. Political consensus fails where attribution is obscured by state proxies. Without clear standards for proportional response and accountability, malicious actors face zero deterrence, allowing the use of non-state fronts to violate sovereignty with impunity. Consider the scale of damage inflicted through these proxy networks. In February 2026, approximately 1.2 million bank accounts were compromised in France's national registry breach, a disruption that required coordination far beyond typical criminal capability. Meanwhile, China is linked to 90 distinct cyber espionage campaigns since 2000, which represents 30% more than Russia. These numbers reflect a sustained strategic effort rather than opportunistic crime. The international community has moved beyond debating cyber norms to addressing how to enforce them. The core issue is not just defining rules but establishing accountability through consequences. When states use proxies like cyber-avengers or Handala, they are effectively deputizing non-state actors to conduct destructive campaigns against critical infrastructure while hiding behind the guise of activism. This creates a legal gray zone where traditional deterrence mechanisms fail because there is no clear state actor to sanction in response to every specific attack. The stakes for curious viewers who follow world events involve understanding that every major cyber incident is now a chess move in great power competition. The battlefield has expanded from physical terrain to digital supply chains, and the actors on screen are often soldiers in uniform we cannot see. When an anonymous GitHub account drops undisclosed 0 days, it signals a shift from digital espionage to kinetic economic disruption, designed to cripple infrastructure while hiding behind a veil of non-state actors. This strategic evolution means that nations can execute destructive campaigns against adversaries' critical infrastructure without triggering the legal thresholds that would force them into open conflict or violate international treaties directly. The use of these groups is a workaround for sanctions, allowing states to inflict damage on targets like military devices and banking registries while maintaining plausible deniability. This approach allows Iran to conduct operations in retaliation for U.S. strikes while claiming ideological motivation rather than state direction. The reality is that we are no longer in an age of digital espionage alone, but of coordinated cyber warfare designed to destabilize regimes without triggering a traditional military response. The shift is clear. Nations have weaponized non-state proxies to bypass sanctions and maintain plausible deniability while inflicting kinetic economic damage. This represents a fundamental change in how states project power, moving away from direct confrontation toward asymmetric digital attacks that are difficult to attribute and even harder to deter through conventional means. For the curious viewer following global affairs, this reframing changes everything about how we interpret cybersecurity news. It is not enough to blame criminal gangs or ideological groups. We must look at the incentives driving state actors who use these proxies as strategic instruments. The goal is kinetic disruption masked as digital noise, where every 0-day drop in infrastructure breach serves a broader geopolitical objective rather than random malice. The takeaway is that anonymous GitHub dumps are not a bug in our system but a feature of modern warfare. As long as international law lacks an enforcement mechanism for cyber attribution and proportional response, states will continue to exploit this gap. The battlefield has expanded from physical terrain to digital supply chains, and the actors on screen are often soldiers in uniform we cannot see. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.